Hello, welcome back. My name is Ari and this vlog is my 24-hour attempted read through of The Raven Cycle. So if you're new and you haven't seen me do one of these before, I spend 24 hours trying to get through a series of books. Usually they're young adult or like really short, like novellas if they're for adults, but this time we're doing The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. So I borrowed all of these from my library and I've read The Raven Cycle before, so I think the first book's gonna go really quick because it's been about 2 years since I read it, so I want to refresh myself before I get into the rest of the series. But I am gonna read this. I actually own this book, but it's in storage, so I had to borrow it from my library. You don't want to hear me babble on talking about the intro to this book. We just need to get into the reading, so here we go. Hello, welcome to the closet. My boyfriend is playing League in the living room, so if you hear what sounds like somebody committing murder, it's just League of Legends. Perfectly normal. So I am 4 hours and 4 minutes into reading, and I have finished my reread of The Raven Boys. It's about 100 pages an hour is what I'm reading, roughly, because 4 hours and 4 minutes, and this has 409 pages. Will I slow down because this was a reread? I don't know. It's been a long time and I didn't really remember a lot of the details of this book. But this introduces us to all of our characters. We have Blue, who is the female character. She was destined from a young age to kill her true love. Something like that. It's a prophecy. Her entire family is clairvoyant. So she's lived with this prophecy her entire life, and at the beginning of the book she's basically told that she is going to meet her true love this year. And then blah 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 blah. She figures out it's basically her true love's Gainsey, but they don't like each other because he's kind of a pretentious asshole. At least he talks like one. And you meet Gainsey, who's a Raven boy, and his posse of guys, which are Adam, Ronan, and Noah, which I don't know why I just looked at the book to figure that out because that's not written anywhere in the front flap. But Adam is really smart but very poor. Ronan is very rich but very angry, and Noah's just kind of like quiet in the background and not noticed most of the time. And this book is weird. The characters behave weirdly, there's magic, it's not particularly normal, but I kind of like it. The only thing that really bothered me about the Raven Boys is Adam's behavior. And Adam acts like he'd rather die than accept money from his friends or help from his friends. And that's just it's not realistic adult intelligent behavior. No one actually ever just pulled themselves up from nothing all by themselves. They all have help of some sort, whether it's the help of a rich parent, help of a wealthy friend, or just the color of your skin sometimes. But you don't just get angry when people who have a lot of money offer to give you some of their money. And his behavior and that whole bullshit just doesn't make sense to me, and I don't think I like Adam's character as much as I'm supposed to because of that. Spoilers, because we're going through a whole series, so I gotta do spoilers here. At the end of this book, they've unlocked the ley lines, blah 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 blah. I don't know where this is going next, but I'm interested to find out. I do know the next book that we have is The Dream Thieves, and this one is about Ronan, and I don't know a whole lot about Ronan other than the fact that he is angry and violent, and from the first book, in that he's gay. Because that is the one big spoiler that you always get about the Raven Boys, is that Ronan is gay, which we don't come across anything of that from here, but I'm betting that we see it in here since it seems to be his book, since that's him on the cover. He also creates magic. He created a raven, or he pulled a raven out of his memories or something like that. Weird, but yeah, I'm looking forward to reading this. Keep going. Keep going. Okay, so I have finished The Dream Thieves, book 2, and I am 9.5 hours in. So this one took a little bit longer for a couple reasons. One, it's not the first time that it is the first time that I've read this. And the other thing is, this is so painfully boring. Please tell me the last 2 books are better than this shit, because I had a very intense struggle to care. Anyway, this is basically Ronan's book, and the overarching plot into the series is that in the first book, they woke up the ley lines, and in the second book, the ley lines are damaged, and it's kind of a mix between like repairing the ley lines and then Ronan figuring out that he is helping damage the ley lines through shit that he's doing with dreams. And there's a couple of bad guys and, you know, blah blah blah. It's boring. I don't care. We also determined at the very end of this book that Ronan's gay, but there is no actual relationship like I thought that was going to be in here. Gainsey and Blue are starting to fall in love, like that has been known to happen, or we have known that's going to happen since like the first page of the first book, but I guess it would be considered interesting to figure out how it happens, except for it's not. Again, boring. I'm gonna give this 3 stars, and I'm going to quickly stop talking about it because I'm bored and move on to Blue Lily Lily Bloom. Alright, I did finish Blue Lily Lily Blue, and the time on that one is 13 hours and 49 minutes, so I will definitely have plenty of time in that 24 hours to finish one more book. It'll be under 24. So first off, my dog is throwing a hissy fit in the background, so if you hear him, I apologize. He just does that frequently. It's a bulldog thing. But Blue Lily Lily Blue was less boring than the last one, but not by much. Basically, the
overall plot of this one is they found out there are 3 sleepers, not just the Raven King. There are 2 others. And there's a prophecy at the beginning of this book that one of the sleepers must be woken and one of the sleepers must not. And then the third one, it doesn't matter. So about halfway through the book, they find the third it doesn't matter sleeper, and we find out that is the Raven King's daughter, and she isn't, like, the spell to keep her sleeping isn't working. So she's been awake for 600 years, face down in a coffin because she was a witch. And we have like a scene with the one that you're not supposed to wake, and all we really know about them is it's not human. So I don't know what they're not supposed to wake, but it's not human. I think it's gonna stay 3 stars like the last one because it wasn't like super exciting. I kind of trudged through it. A lot of the middle stuff just feels like fill. All the characters are weird, but we got all of the interest out of their weirdness in like the first book. And now it's not super, like, their weirdness is just commonplace at this point, or everybody's so weird that no one's weirdness stands out, is I think what I'm trying to get at. So it's just like, yeah, we get it. Cool. They can do magic, or they're a little awkward, or they throw temper tantrums. No one cares anymore. Last book, The Raven King. Hopefully this is good. Gainsey's gotta die in this book because that's the prophecy we've had since the beginning, so I'm looking forward to that, which sounds awful, but I want to know how it happens. So Gainsey's gonna die in this book, probably gonna come back to life. That's just how things work in these type of books. Like, he's gonna die, but he's going to be brought back to life somehow. Is Noah going to be brought back to life somehow in this book? I'm trying to think of any other interesting thing that would possibly happen. Like, what do they actually wish for from the Raven King when they wake him up? Because that's been a question throughout the whole series. I don't know, but I'm about to find out. Alright, so I have finished The Raven King, and shocking probably absolutely nobody, I didn't like it either. So I'm going to take this time to talk about why I think I didn't like this series as a whole, instead of like specifically what was wrong with this book, since I didn't like the previous books. So the first book I liked, and then the 3 after that were all 2 to 3 stars. I think I would give the Dream Thieves 2 stars, Blue Lily Lily Blue, and The Raven King 3 stars. But I think the biggest problem with this series is it should have been a duology. I think a lot of what bothered me was this is just so boring and so repetitive, and I think it could have been reduced to a series of 2 books instead of 4 books, and then all of this extra fill and repetitive bad guys with different names who are doing the exact same thing could have just been cut out. Overall, the ending was bad. It's like, you know Gainsey's gonna live. Like, he's prophesized to die, but he can't actually die. So you know he's gonna live. And I also didn't understand why the hornet thing wasn't a bigger deal, because the demon's a hornet, and Gansey knows that he's like allergic to bees and hornets, and that was what had killed him the first time and everything. So you would think that somehow he has something with the demon, and then the demon stings him, and that's how he dies. But no, he literally just kisses Blue and then dies. It didn't explain why kissing Blue killed him, other than the fact that that's the prophecy, but he just kisses Blue and then falls down dead. And it's just like, that's really like the best you could come up with. All of the boys are just various iterations of some sort of prick. They're different kinds of pricks, but they're all pricks. And then Blue has got like big pick-me-girl vibes. And this is a young adult book, so maybe if I was actually younger, then I would have related to the teenage assholeness of the characters a little bit more than I do in my 30s. But I was really just like, wow, these children are all fucking insufferable, aren't they? So because I didn't like any of the characters, it was probably much harder for me to like get into the story and give a shit about the little things that the characters were doing, because the plot was not carrying this. The plot is very repetitive throughout each of the books. Like I said earlier, it's like you've got a villain and they basically do the same thing every book with like a slightly different focus. But it's a lot of it's rehashed and repeated, and could have gone down to a smaller series size and been better. Another big problem that I had was the plot holes. And I may have only noticed this because I was reading the books back to back to back to back, but even within a book, there would be like a major plot hole. And I noticed it, I think, the first time in the Dream Thieves, and then I kept like being like, wait, isn't that like a huge plot hole or something like that? And I finally, in The Raven King, wrote down a plot hole when I found it. And that would be on page 114. Gansey says something about, or I guess Adam and Blue are talking, and they're talking about like why anybody's friends with Ronan, and it is like why especially Gansey is friends with Ronan, because their personalities are so different and they're always mad at each other that it just didn't make any sense. And Adam's talking about how Gansey hates lying and is friends with Ronan because Ronan never lies. Like, that's like the big thing with his character, was he's an asshole, but he's never gonna lie to you. Like, he won't lie. But I was like, Ronan lies all the time. And I flipped back, and on page 65, there is literally a dialogue quote, comma, Ronan lied, period. And you're like, how can you make an entire personality of somebody that they don't lie and then just have them lie all the time in their dialogue? It's like telling but not showing, like, to the extreme with something like that. And that just feels like lazy writing. Now, this wasn't like the worst thing I've ever read. There were a couple of lines that I thought were just hilarious. Like, occasionally there'd be like a one-liner and I would like laugh out loud or read it to my boyfriend or something like that. Like, there were some pretty good one-liners in here. There just wasn't enough one-liners to make up for everything else bad in the book. There's also too many side characters. They keep introducing new characters that are either bad guys or good guys or gray characters, and they're just adding on to this huge character list, and none of these characters are important. Like, I didn't even understand the purpose of introducing Henry at the end of the book. Like, what was his purpose? Even Noah who has been like the fourth Raven boy since the beginning. Like, what was his purpose? He had such a peripheral role in the book that I think he could have been easily, like, a ton of the characters could have just been written out and it would have been the same story, but not as annoyingly long as these 4 books. Now, I asked myself, like, why was this series so popular when I didn't like it? Like, what drew people into this series? And I think I figured it out. So, the first book, the Raven Boys, was actually, like, good. Like, the first book in this series was good. So people read the first book and then enjoy the series. Or the people read the first book, enjoy it, and want to continue on. But then you get to the Dream Thieves. That's published in 2013 and it's not very good. But something happens in the Dream Thieves. It's kind of a throwaway line in the Dream Thieves and doesn't come to any sort of fruition until we get to the Raven King, but it does happen in the Dream Thieves, and that is Ronan comes out as a gay character. A character is being a jerk and says he's gay or ask him if he's gay, and Ronan doesn't like say no, I'm not gay. And then the guy goes, so you didn't say you're not gay? And he was like, I know I didn't. So it's like, oh my God, it's 2013 and we've got a queer character in a young adult book, which in 2013 would have been a big deal. We needed more queer representation back then, and this series is giving queer representation. So even though it's not good by today's standards, and there's so much better queer rep, people who would have read this back at the time would have forgiven a lot about the book because it's got that queer rep in it. And then the queer rep in the Raven King, we're adding bi rep to the queer rep because Ronan starts dating Adam, and then Adam was dating Blue in the Raven Boys. So Adam is a bi character, he likes both girls and boys, and this one was published in 2016, I think. So it's just adding more queer rep. And even 2016, we're not getting a huge amount of queer rep in books, though it was probably better in 2016 than it was in 2013. Even though 2013 is not quite 10 years ago, there has been just strides in queer acceptance, especially in young adult novels since then. So I think people who are reading it young being a lot more forgiving about the idiot teen personalities, and then they've got this like nostalgia hook on it. But yeah, going into this now, I don't think that I would recommend it. I don't even know that I would recommend the Raven Boys because you can't just read the Raven Boys. Like, there's huge cliffhangers at the end of Raven Boys, so you're gonna want to continue with the series. But I didn't feel like it was worth continuing with the series. So yeah, I don't know that I would even really recommend this to anybody right now. So that was my experience with the Raven Cycle, which unfortunately I didn't like. If you read the Raven Cycle, tell me what I might be missing or if you disagree with anything that I've said, but let me know what your opinion on it was down in the comments below. I'm not sure if it's next weekend or the weekend after. I am going to be doing a 24-hour read-through of the Grishaverse. So hopefully I like Grishaverse better than I like the Raven Cycle. But stay tuned sometime this month for that, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!